Naruto ended back in 2017, something like that. It being this series that I had that I had followed rigorously weekly and been looking forward to every chapter. And kind of like One Piece, it seemed like a series that was never gonna end. But then when it eventually did, I entered this existential crisis where you're like, what am I gonna look forward to now? Um, and so I eventually stumbled upon Doctor Stone. Watched the two first episodes in English, and because I got so hooked on it, I of course binged all the rest of season one, at least what had been dubbed on up until that point. And then when there was no more to watch, I went to the manga and then started to follow that on a weekly basis, and my love for the series only grew and grew. I got to love the characters, love the plot, and see where this whole revive humanity thing was going. Every single mystery that the series introduced really captivated me. Like, not only was it exciting to see what was the next invention gonna be that Senku was gonna reinvent, um, but also. But also to see all these mysteries that were introduced, perhaps the biggest one, which ended up being what the entire series was essentially riding on, was who is Y Man, which was a mystery added on top of the mystery we already had going on, which was what was it that petrified us 3,700 years ago. And so the whole series goes on with trying to find more survivors, and they learn that this radio signal that this mysterious Y Man is sending comes from the moon. So now they had to find a way to get up on the moon, and revive more people in the process, of course, and also the process of getting to the moon meant that even more things were gonna be reinvented, like when they eventually revive Ryusui's half brother, Sai, I believe he was called. He they need him because of his mathematics skills, and they need him to make computers and stuff like that, and so he reinvents the video game among many other things, so that we are sort of kind of back to we're not back to modern civilization, but easy does it, right? And so it really it really bothered me when the series ended with that they go up to the moon, and they find out who Wyman really is. And you can argue whether it was a good plot twist or not. Personally I think that for a series that I loved 99% of the way, that final 1% with the big reveal and all that, it really that was really a sour note for me, because I was like, okay, so your big plot twist is that this hypertech device that has been the thing that turned all of us to stone is sentient. So aliens, because this thing is apparently an alien. It has a lot of Y-man bodies up on the moon, and they were the ones who turned us all to stone, because throughout their never-ending space quest, they want to find another planet with intelligent lives who can help it recreate itself, which itself raises a lot of questions like, well, where did it originally come from? Who helped it? Who helped make so many of it in the first place? Like, this big swarm of Y-men. Uh, I didn't count, but several thousand at least. Were they always that many, or who helped create that many? Because on their way back to the moon, where all of the Y-men have said goodbye because you guys are not worthy, you are not quite there yet, you are not intelligent enough to recreate us, and this one Medusa device, this one Y-man who had been with them for all this time, who they essentially used as a tracking device or some shit like that. Um, it decides to stay with them because it's curious as to where humanity is gonna go, because it got inspired by Senku, who is, he's always like, no one knows where science is gonna take us, but it always you know it's it's gonna lead us places, so get excited. um and then they, on the way back from the moon, they ask it, well, where do you come from? And they, I mean, it's a legit answer that the Y-man then replies, I don't know. Well, do you humans know where you come from? And they are like, well played. And I'm sitting there like, yes, that's a valid reply, but at the same time, fuck you. We want to know. We have been following this manga for 26 volumes. I don't know how many chapters that amounted to, but give us some answers, damn it. Like, that's just a cop-out answer. But, and I can talk to death about how I felt, again, how I thought that was a stupid plot twist, and how Wyman's plan to how Wyman's plan is stupid as hell in the first place, because okay, he petrifies everyone on planet Earth, and the his idea was, or its idea, I don't know if it considers itself as a specific gender. Its idea was that because apparently this petrification works in that you can get out of it on your own if your brain activity is high enough, and apparently not very many people on Earth have high enough brain activity. Senku, he broke out of it himself after 3,700 years, and apparently that was really slow in Wyman's book, because during that time all of civilization crumbled. And while I get that Wyman wanted to test us to see if we could build more of him, at the same time, okay, you have humanity, which, as we are right now in the year 2023, I had to think for a bit there. We don't have hypertech like that can petrify us by with a black beam like that, or at least I hope we don't. I haven't talked to NASA or a scientist about it, but anyway, they want to test us. Fair enough. And they have this petrification thing where you can break out of it if you are smart enough, if your brain activity is high enough. But then during these 3,700 years it takes for Senku to be the first human to break out, all of civilization is gone. How do you expect Senku to make more of you if everything is gone? And we even learned that Wyman continuously sends out a signal to repetrify us if you have a Medusa device near a radio signal, because we get a time skip at one point because it's our Japanese main heroes against Dr. Zeno's American soldiers, and the only way they win is because this watchmaker guy, he has created this wristwatch from scratch that coincidentally happens to have a built-in radio receiver, and so when he puts that thing near the Medusa device or Y-Man, um, it omits this. It receives this signal where Y-Man says something something second something something kilometers. Enveloping the entire Earth once again. So we know that Y-Man is continuously sending out this signal. If the first petrification back when Senku, back when the series started, if that was just to test us to see, how long is it gonna take them to break out? Are they intelligent enough? Then why the hell would he continuously send out a signal to try and repetrify us? Anyway, I'm sure that a lot of you have some good reasons that I haven't thought about, but to my main point, which is how the series actually ended after the stupid Y-Man plot twist. I mean, we are throughout most of the series, all of Senku's reinventions have been, stuff that we have in real life, albeit sometimes somewhat exaggerated for the purpose of entertainment, but it is at base level something that you can actually make in real life, whether it be a generator or a car or whatever. And so at the end, the last thing we see is Senku inventing a time machine, or we don't know if it works, but he is in the middle of making one because he then wants to go back in time to prevent all of this from happening. So apparently the series is fine with ending on science fiction, introducing one final invention that is not something that we have at present time. And so if that's where we are gonna go, I can't see why the plot twist couldn't be that that Wyman was really Senku who had traveled back in time, and because here I'm getting ahead of myself here. Senku wants to revive every single one of us, right? Including the bad guys, which is what Tsukasa was against. And so I'm like, first of all, the series ends before that goal has even been realized. Like civilization isn't back on its feet when the series ends. Every single human being isn't revived when the series ends. Like, to me, the series ended halfway through. I mean, there was so much still to tell, because imagine, if you will, that every single human being is revived like Senku wished, and including all of the scumbags, and then they try to to keep the Medusa as a secret, but of course someone is either gonna leak it because they get they get bribed, or a spy is hired to find out, or whatever. But if every single human being was revived, I guarantee you that it would be impossible to keep the secret of the Medusa and its a gift of petrification, as Wyman himself called it, like the gift of eternal life, which again doesn't make sense. If you want us to break free from it, then it isn't really eternal life. Like, you petrify us in order to test us to see how long we are gonna break out. So what is it? Do you want to see how long it takes us to get out of it, to test how smart we are, or do you want to grant us eternal life? Do you want us to stay petrified? What is it? But anyway, 7 billion people, 8, I hear now, someone is eventually gonna find out and is gonna steal it or whatever and sell it to the highest bidder. Like imagine some of the most powerful and craziest people we do have in real life. Like I don't know my politics or my history, but I hear that this Putin guy is a bad guy. Imagine if he got a hold of it and all the shit he could wreck, if he had a device that was capable of petrifying entire armies. And then imagine that someone like him got a hold of it, and then the Third World War broke out about this about the ownership of this device. And then we have Senku, who even though throughout the whole series he has been this smart ass guy who's been like, yeah, we are gonna find a way. Like imagine him seeing that his noble wish to revive all of humanity, despite who you were, despite how good or bad you were, that has actually led to a new world war and more people getting killed than you can imagine. Even though we have established that someone getting petrified and then broken, then you can piece them back together. But you can't get brought back to life if your statue is too damaged. So there's that. But imagine him witnessing all this death and suffering that he has essentially been part of causing, because he insisted on getting everyone back. And then imagine if he then builds a time machine. Like if he imagine maybe okay, again, time travel isn't possible in the time that he lives in, not now and not 3700 years ahead from now. But imagine if he then gets a hold of the Medusa somehow, or he finds a copy of it that they haven't accounted for, and he then uses it to petrify himself to wake up further into the future, when humanity has developed better technology. And then he invents this time machine to go back in time to before the first attack, to then petrify humanity himself in order to prevent this war from breaking out, where it's then gonna be Senku versus Senku. Like time traveling Senku, who has witnessed the Third World War after all of civilization got brought back and were fighting over ownership of the Medusa, versus the Senku from 3700 years ago. Like, I know I'm getting way out there, but my point is that you can't, whether it's gonna go that far with time travel and all that, but my point is that you can't have something as powerful as the Medusa and a wish to revive every single human on Earth and not have that go wrong if this thing falls into the wrong hands. Like, at one point late in the story, Senku and Tsukasa, and I believe Gen, Chrome also overhears it because of his long ass ears. They are talking about how the Medusa essentially grants eternal life, and then then Chrome is like, well, then we can use it to make all the old people live longer, and the others are like, you think that's such a good idea? Because imagine if imagine the overpopulation if we petrify all the old people, and then you know, the world is going to be filled with old people who can't take care of themselves, and there are eventually going to be more old people than there are going to be young people who can take care of the old people. And yeah, he gets the point, and so they agree to keep it a secret. But again, that whole plot point about the Medusa grants eternal life, we can't let that secret get out. That plot point, as far as I remember, is never brought up again. I mean, yes, when Senku on the moon speaks to Y-Man one on one, Y-Man when it divulges its plan to him, the whole we were gonna test you and why won't you receive our gift of eternal life. That whole conversation was, like I said, one to one because Y-Man trapped himself and Senku inside this vortex of a million a million Y-Men, which then broke up the radio signal between Senku and everyone else. So no one, aside from Senku, Tsukasa, Gen, and Chrome, know of this eternal life secret. It's never been brought up again. So one thing is plot points that are not followed up on. Another thing is again that I feel this series could have gone so many other places. Again, let alone the fact that we ended before humanity had been completely restored. At least, I mean, there is a panel in the 24th volume, I believe. I just bought it. It just released here in Denmark in my local my local manga shop just got it home. There is a panel where Senku is like, now to revive the rest of mankind. But we never see visual proof of it. Like you know those video game like boxes that appears when they acquire something new. Like all of humanity revived. We never see any. We never get any sort of confirmation that all of humanity has been revived. So we end before all of humanity has been revived and before civilization has been completely restored, and then we just see Senku attempting to build a time machine in order to go back and fix it all, which, now that I think about it, goes against his entire character because he's all about how science can move forward, not how he can use science to backtrack. Like, he, from the very beginning, he has been dead set on creating, reinventing science from scratch and using it to restore civilization and make the world better than it was before. Like not flower power or stuff like that, but creating everything back from scratch. He was never like oh, I wish I could find a way to go back in time. I wish we could find a way to undo all of this, make sure it never happened. He has always been a guy who looked forward. So the series ending on, again, not just divulging into science fiction. I mean, I was totally shocked. Like, really, Senku? You have only been making inventions so far that are actually logically, feasibly possible in today's day and age, and now you are attempting a time machine. Like, what? So not only is the series dipping its toes into science fiction at the very last chapter, but again, it ends with him wanting to undo it all, which which completely baffles me. I know that a bonus chapter was released later, because they realized that a lot of people didn't like the ending, and this bonus chapter is where we find him out at sea and he finds all of his bodies again. He has to remember how the hell did I even get here. And then when they eventually all regroup and they get back to shore, it turns out that what they were out for in the first place was this rare material that they could only find in Norway, which I think they were gonna use to actually make the time machine a reality. But again, that damn time machine, get it out of here. Show us how you are gonna go forward. Show us how you're gonna restore civilization from scratch like you set out to do. Don't take the cheap way and I now realize that reviving all 7 billion people was too much of a task. So I'm now gonna try to invent a time machine to go back to before that all happened. Like, come on, it goes against Senku's entire character. Again, he has. I mean, he has throughout the whole series. He has also been like science and everything that is that can't be proved, or facts. He has laughed in the face of stuff like that, and then he goes for the ultimate science fiction, a time machine. I know I'm repeating myself again and again, but it really baffles me the more that I think about it. And again, the fact that the series ends so abrupt, like, it really, on many accounts, not just what I've already discussed, but on many accounts, especially the final arc where they go to all kinds of different countries to collect materials for the rocket to the moon. It felt so rushed in that arc, like, and I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. I don't know if the manga fell in popularity, so that the Shonen Jump were like, guys, you have X amount of chapters to finish this to finish this shit, or if they just ran out of ideas. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, or if they had, yeah, like I said, if they had run out of ideas, if they just grew tired of the manga altogether, like want to move on to something else, kind of like I hear the guys who made Game of Thrones did, like I haven't watched that show myself, but I have heard that during the final season, those guys wanted to move on to something else, whereas was it Netflix or HBO who made that? They were like, well, we can easily give you more time and more funds to make more episodes to properly finish this stuff off, and they were like, no, we want to move on, which resulted in the notoriously bad ending that we got. Again, I haven't watched it myself, because everything I heard about the show completely turned me off. It didn't sound like something I would like at all, but that's what I've heard. And in the same vein, I don't know why we got the ending we got. If that ending had been planned the entire time. I don't know if they intended for the series to end with all of humanity being revived, all of civilization being restored, or if they always intended to end with motherfucking time machine. I don't know what went on in their heads from beginning to end. And kind of like Kingdom Hearts, one of my favorite video game franchises of all time, where there are many things in that series, many concepts, many ideas, like nobodies and all that kind of stuff, where you sometimes sit down and think, how far ahead did Nomura actually think? Like, after we know that the first game ended on a cliffhanger, because they were like, well, if this sells well, then it's good that we leave a cliffhanger so that we can follow up from that. And at the same time, it was if Kingdom Hearts had never been successful and never become this franchise, I would have been totally content with the ending we got, because Destiny Islands gets restored. We see up in the sky all of the worlds get back, and sure, Sora, Donald, and Goofy go out to look for King Mickey again, but by and large, I would have been okay with an open ending like that, but nevertheless, they left it like that to open up the possibilities for sequels, which again makes me think, did Nomura, when he wrote that ending, think 3 or 4 or 5 games ahead. Like we all like to joke about how he just writes that story as he goes, which is why we often feel that, or I often feel that he writes himself into corners, and especially the beeping, the time travel shit from Dream Drop Distance. I mean, time travel in Kingdom Hearts is my least concern. And I can talk to great lengths in another video about why I feel that that series has kind of gone downhill. Kingdom Hearts 3, but that's not. But again, what I wanted to to get to was again the whole, how far did they think ahead. I don't know how far the creators of Dr. Stone thought ahead, because I mean, as a writer myself, sometimes I think ahead, sometimes I just write the story as I go. Sometimes I have the ending in my head from the beginning, like, you know, what is Eiichiro Oda, the guy who makes One Piece. You know, that series is over 100 volumes right now, over 1,000 manga chapters, and nobody knows when he's gonna end it. But he has stated for several years that he knows how the ending is gonna be. He just doesn't want it to end yet. And I'm the same when I write my books, my fantasy novels. Like, sometimes the ending is what I envision first, and then and then everything else comes after. You know, everything that leads to the ending comes after that. And you can say that for all manga and all books. You can say that for Harry Potter, and the reason I always use Harry Potter as an example is because that's, for someone who doesn't like to read actual word books, that's one of the very few franchises I have ever read, and even then I never read the whole thing to all the way to the end. I read up to I read the first 4 books, then the 5th book I got to page 90 or something, and then I was like, so many descriptions, can't we just get to the point? Um, which is kind of one of the reasons why my own books are like, you know, things happen constantly, which I have also gotten a bit of critique for. But screw that, that's how I write. But we don't know, or maybe there has been done interviews with J.K. Rowling about if she always envisioned the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort at the end of Volume 7 when she wrote the first book. I don't know. I haven't read into that, but sometimes it's just to illustrate that sometimes the ending is the beginning. Sometimes the ending is the first thing as a writer that you think of, and I don't know how they went about that in Dr. Stone, if they always intended for it to end so abrupt as it did. But again, it really felt rushed at the end. I felt that so much more could have been done with that. Like, we have on Treasure Island, we have a villain in that what was his name, Ibraki, something like that. Sorry, don't remember. And we had this really exciting confrontation between him and Senku and Ryusui, and then the next big villain was of course Dr. Zeno when they got to America. And after Dr. Zeno, I was like, oh boy, who is the next big villain gonna be? No one. We're gonna rush to the ending, huh? Or I guess Y-Man ended up being the final big villain of sorts. But for a globetrotting adventure like this, I felt there were so many more places they could go. Like, did they ever go to Antarctis, for example? And also because I know it's fiction at the end of the day, but for only Senku and Dr. Zeno to be the ones to break out on their own really seems far-fetched to me. Like, a guy from Japan and a guy from America. What about Europe? But I'm getting sort of off track now. My point is that I feel that Dr. Stone rushed to an ending where it it had so much, it had so many yet unexplored ideas that it itself had set up, and so much. I mean, I have talked a lot in my movie reviews about how it, as a writer myself, how it irks me when a series or a movie doesn't explore every single plot thread or every single idea that it itself introduces. Like, you introduce something and then you don't follow up on it, which is something I if you have watched my Puss in Boots review, is something I praise that movie to the high heavens about, because every single idea that was introduced in that movie was eventually followed up on later. And it pains me when an otherwise good movie or a good series falls flat on some of these things. I mean, if some things are of course more important than others. Like, there are some things that you're like, okay, they forgot to address that, but yeah, no biggie. And then there are some things where you're like, hey, why didn't they finish that part of the story? Why didn't they why did they forget about that plot point? And it especially for a series like Dr. Stone, which had some really good ideas, it it just pains me when it doesn't follow up on everything that has been established, when it doesn't address all of the plot points and concepts that it itself introduced, and doesn't become the best product that it can be. So yeah, it was the ending especially was a colossal disappointment to me. Also because, now that I think about it, at the very end of the bonus chapter, we see Senku fantasize about how Earth is only the beginning. Next, we are gonna colonize other planets. And again, I was like, colonize other planets, dude. You haven't even managed to fully revive your own civilization yet. Like, back off, dude. Slow down. You still have 7 billion people left to unpetrify, and that in and of itself, how the hell he's even gonna manage to revive that many people as he originally set out to do, could be an exciting arc in itself. Like, is he gonna put his faith into some of the other people that he has revived, like not just his own crew, but if he imagine if he put the revival fluid in the hands of people he barely knew, because ever since he revived Ryusui, he was always like, well, capability triumphs personality, because he was told that Ryusui was this giant egotistic a-hole, but then revived him anyway because we need a ship navigator. So yeah, how he was even gonna revive everyone could have been an interesting arc in itself, but then they end with colonizing space. Dude, finish what you started first. But and I know this is not an issue specific to or exclusive to Japan and manga and anime, but considering that's the only medium I digest, it's all I have to pull from. But the Japanese are excellent storytellers. They are great at telling captivating stories, but half of the I talked in my Blue Lock and Dress Up Darling reviews on how I am great at just at a glance, just by looking at a poster. I'm good at picking out anime that I know I will love. But even the anime that I end up loving, they sure don't always end satisfyingly, because sometimes it feels like the Japanese are great storytellers, but they have no idea how to end those stories. Like sometimes it feels like they, like with Dr. Stone, it feels like they just eventually run out of steam. Like they have used up all of the ideas they had, and then kind of like with a train, like they put down the tracks as they go, and then eventually the tracks just end, and they are like, well, we have no we have no ideas left. We didn't plan this far. What do you want? What do you want from me? Um, and that's really sad in my opinion. I mean, I would have gladly accepted if they just said, oh, the series is gonna go on a hiatus until we cook up a satisfying ending, or a new arc that is gonna take the story to new heights, and is gonna explore all of these is gonna explore what the world is gonna look like after everyone has been revived, and when everyone is fighting to get the Medusa. Like, if they had announced that they were gonna take a half-year break or something like that, I would have been all for that. Instead, they just ended a great, and otherwise great and inventive series with a whimper. Like, I I can I can recommend Dr. Stone to other manga fans anytime, but I will not sing any praises for the ending. I'm sorry. I I I have to be honest with myself on that. And again, maybe you guys all have your own interpretations of the ending, and your own theories or ideas or your own arguments as to why you think the ending is great, and I would love to hear those. I mean, it's not like I'm not like, well, this is my opinion of how bad the ending is, and no one can change my mind. No, I am, because I love this series so much. I am all for discussions that could potentially change my mind. Like, oh right, I see what they were going for now, but I really don't see it right now. To me, it just seems like a rushed ending with a lot of potential that was just dropped on the ground. A lot of great ideas that they could have further explored in the series, and they just didn't. Um, so yeah, that's that's kind of everything I had on my mind. Um, so like I said, if you guys have any comments, any theories of your own, please feel free to put them in the comments down below. And I thank you for watching. If you have watched this far, I thank you for your attention. Hope you aren't too mad at me for disliking parts of an otherwise great series. But hey, again, the only way we get better at storytelling is to criticize it. is how I look at it. I mean, as I have said about the other things I have reviewed on this channel where my opinion wasn't very positive, I don't enjoy hating on something or enjoy criticizing something, but if I don't think something is good, I don't think it is good. Like, why would I lie and say, oh yes, it's the greatest thing ever? No point in doing that. Be honest. And again, if you criticize something, it's not because you hate it. It's because you care enough to study it. You care enough to criticize it. And I mean, if you walk up to someone who has made a painting, I mean, sure, you could just be an ass and say, well, that's bad. Why is it bad? It's just bad. But if you point out, well, that detail could be better, or the shadows could be better here, you don't do that to make them sad or piss them off. You do it because you like what they are doing, and you want to see them get better. I mean, for Christ's sake, there are many artists on Facebook and Twitter and the like who put up their art and asks to be criticized, or not criticized, but they ask for your opinion and they say all criticism is welcome as long as it is constructive, and that's the key word, to be constructive. And maybe my criticism towards these series and movies comes off as pure hate. I really hope that's not the case. That's not what I'm aiming for. I don't intend to come off as just being mindlessly hateful. I make these videos because because I have some opinions, and if those opinions are positive, then it's because I have found something that I legitimately love and I want to share the love. If it's something I didn't like, it's because I want to. It's because okay, I know that the creator is probably never gonna see this anyway, but I hope that what I have to say can come in handy to someone who watches this, other than just being for entertainment. Lord knows that I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, whether positive or negative, just for the entertainment, not necessarily to have my horizons broadened. But I don't do this just to be negative, but to be constructive, and I hope that at least somewhat shines through. But yeah, hope you found something of value in this video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.